Judge Richard McMonagle, just like his late father George, is one of Cuyahoga County's most respected jurists. The name McMonagle is synonymous with the law here in Cuyahoga County. As is the case with our honoree, the McMonagles did not become legends of the legal system by chance. Richard McMonagle earned his success by hard work and commitment to the justice system. Would you please welcome the Honorable Richard McMonagle.
Bear with me, these are new glasses, and I haven't quite figured them out yet. But, Jerry, we're going to see you at the 103rd Irish Good Fellowship luncheon. That was my first introduction into the Irish ways of Cleveland. My dad dragged me down there, I'm sure fighting at times, and I counted them the other day. I've gone for 63 years out of my 71, so this is another event, but he's going to be the MC this year. It was always quite an event. I'd like to congratulate the other honorees. This is just a special day, and I've got some of my friends know this. Oh, by the way, in that program, on page 40, there's a picture of me. I want to know who put that in there. It's either Cicero's or Allen's. It's Sean, for sure. So, and I don't drink red wine. I don't know how that happened. You know, life is filled with small victories, I think, almost on a daily basis. Once in a while, maybe you can get a big victory, children, grandchildren, things like that. And this is a victory, I think, and I appreciate it. I'm flattered. My family is, I think, honored by this. They're all sitting at the table here. I've got my wife Paulette, my beautiful wife Paulette, and she told me to not mention her name, Paulette. I'll tell you one thing, anybody who knows Paulette and me, I got the better part of the deal. There's no doubt about it. We've got our children are here. Well, two of our children are here, Chris and Matt. Gretchen is, I think she's in Milan. She's at the Fashion Week over there. Heidi's in New York. Helen is in Wyoming. We went to visit her a couple weeks ago with her children. And we got off the plane, and they did announce it was 29 below zero. And she and her husband then went off to Mexico, and it was like being on house arrest while we're babysitting for their children. We love them all. We just love some of them maybe a little longer than others. For what it's worth, Helen's mother-in-law, her uncle was Gene Tunney, the prize winner. So we've got a little history in there. They've got 3 girls. And one of them, to her credit, Lucy, flunked out of ski school. So maybe the athletic gene didn't go down. My brother Jim is here. He's a saint, for those of you who know him. My sister Sally, she's in Sanibel. I don't think she wanted to leave to come up here. And my niece Susan Fagan, Susan's daughter, is here with her husband. Many colleagues and friends are here. I recognize them. It's just really flattering to see so many people who are like this, who are here. Now, there's some pictures out in the lobby there, and there's one big one of my father's mother. And this is taken in 1880. And it's the picture where the people in it, there's 6 people in it, look like they get shook out of a tree. And that was not my description of it, it was my father's. They are something else. A little bit further over to the right is a picture of my mother's family. And they're very regal, well-dressed. Their house is still on Magnolia in University Circle. Beautiful house, beautiful family. And I just like to wonder what my father's, or my mother's father was thinking about when this young Irish kid started walking up and trying to date his wife. My grandfather on my mother's side, his name was, we called him Iron Mike. And there was a reason for that. He was tough as nails. However, my wife's father, his nickname was Bismarck. So you can figure out what this guy was like. As far as pictures, we have no pictures of my grandfather on my father's side. We don't have any. And but there's something acute that happened about 20 years ago, Brendan Coakley, who was one of my brother's kids, came back, and it was a Thanksgiving dinner, and he said, you know, he says, I met a girl. He had just started a Bowling Green. He said, I just met a girl there. Her name is McMonagle. And she says, you know, and the name started, and we related. And Brendan says that she's going to give me a picture of her grandfather. All right? Now, my father's father, he was one of 9 children. One of the men deserted his family in the 1880s, 1890s, and headed out west. And she brought this picture back in December, and it was him. It was a relative. So be it. And I think that she was from Nebraska. So here, our Irish history coming here is no different than anybody else's. There was nothing really in common. We left in 1839 and 1840. They came here without any expectations except for hard work. And they didn't expect a handout. None of them expected a handout. And the people that they worked with, the Germans, the Jews, the Italians, same way. They came here to work, and they worked hard. My father's clients, when he was practicing law, I was thinking of this the other day. You know, the genealogy didn't matter. His best clients were the Milsteins, the Ratners, Sam Miller, and Bob Weltman. Where's Weltman? He's out here somewhere. There he is. Okay. You don't want to have to hear from Weltman. He collects debts. By the way, my mother went to Ursuline College. She was a professor there too. Yeah. And my father was a laborer. He never went to college. A lot of people don't know that. He was a very successful lawyer. And they all worked hard. I remember as a youngster when we went to bed at night, my father would he had his own typewriter, and he'd bring it home. And he'd be typing away every night, maybe till 10, 11, or 12 at night for work the next day. He did this when he was a judge, too. And he's just driven by this, and he loved it. And my mother, on the other hand, she was more refined than my dad was. I remember one dinner, my brother will remember this dinner forever, because it ended very quickly. My mother kept on saying to my dad, you know, George, we have to go to Europe. We've just got to go to Europe. And it was on and on, every dinner. Not every dinner, but for years and years. So finally one day, she said, George, we got to make a commitment. The kids are getting to the age now where we'll be able to go, they'll be going to college. And what he said was this, and this is the end of dinner. He said, Hazel, he said, what do you have in Europe? He says, you got houses, streams, trees, people who don't speak English. Get out to Buckeye Road, you got the same thing. That was the end of dinner. So, now, but really, to wrap it up, what I see today, though, in the courthouse on a daily basis, is the idea of the responsibility of having a family, and I think it's failing us. People in this room here, it has not failed, and you wouldn't be here if it had failed you. But a good number of us are being Irish Catholic, and I think that we ought to be able to create an example that some people ought to look up to. Now, this morning I had the unfortunate experience of sentencing a 15-year-old young man to prison for 41 years. 41 years to life. He had murdered a woman in South Euclid. It was a savage murder. I had 1,500 letters from people supporting her, not one supporting him. 15 years old. And his father was there. I think he was under the influence of something, and he wanted to blame the drugs that the kid was on. But this youngster was out running amok last night. It's just a terrible experience to go through that and to see this youngster, who will be a different person 20 years from now, but what he did to this poor woman was beyond description. One person who is not here, but his children are here, Bill West is my first cousin. Eddie Crawford's a good friend. Boland's a good friend of his. I was going to introduce him because there's an Irish part of his life that was so special. Dan talked about going through Dallas on January 22nd. Bill was a pallbearer for Kennedy, but he's not here today. Actually, he's on the way into Europe. His mother-in-law died. Now, I firmly believe, and I want everybody to take this home if you can, that the hardest part about raising children nowadays is keeping them alive. Every one of them. Both physically and morally. You got to take this challenge. You have to do it. I appreciate this very much, and thank you.